there, welcome back. I'm going to talk about The Witch and Jethica, which are two films released in the last 10 years that are horror films to a degree, but they're kind of a little bit more eccentric horror films. The Witch is much more known. Well, Jethica from a few years ago was made during the pandemic, is a less well-known film, but hopefully over the next few years it'll get some play from different people, because it is a unique and interesting film that takes the kind of ghost story in a different way. So, The Witch, I'll start with. The Witch is basically Robert Eggers' directorial debut. Stars Anya Taylor-Joy as a young woman who's going through puberty, but she's in the Puritan 17th century, 18th century people who moved over to America to escape prosecution in England and are basically outcasts and have gone to New England to actually start the religion there. But the father of this group, who went over to America, is too extreme even for the Puritans, who basically he gets banished from the Puritan thing because he's so extreme, so devout in his beliefs. So they build a farm in the middle of nowhere, which they're going to farm it and they're going to hunt animals and they're going to survive this family. There's the mother and father, the older daughter, the older son, and these twins, as well as a newborn child. So there's 5 of them for children, the 2 adults, and as time goes on, things go wrong for the family. The character played by Anya Taylor-Joy, she's been taught all the everything her parents know, everything they believe, and she's starting to feel like it's not really her, it's not really what she believes, but she doesn't really know how to deal with that. It's like, I'm having doubts, I'm having impure thoughts, because partly because she's going through puberty, but also because she's just looking at this thinking, this doesn't work, this is not a good idea, this I can see obvious flaws in this plan. But because she's a daughter, she's trying not to be critical of her parents, but she's obviously seen things that are not quite right. The younger brother, who she's closer with, he's also starting to go through puberty, and he's noticing her body change too, and he's having confused thoughts about that. But also, again, they're outside of the mainstream society now, they're just go at themselves, and they're just trying to survive. They have a father who has a world on his shoulders, it seems. He always brings a world on his shoulders, like no one's as good as him at this. Understanding God. No one is so critical of themselves and are always begging for understanding of their own flaws, and basically everyone come out into the world impure and they have to find a way to heaven, is his view. And the mother is very similar. So the parents are played by Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickie, and so they're obviously big time actors who can really deliver these kind of things. But all the kids are well cast too. The twins, who are a girl and a boy, who are the troubled ones, they're the ones who always get into mischief. And the baby, when Anya Taylor-Joy is actually watching him, disappears. Like she's doing this thing, and then all of a sudden the baby's gone. And that's the first thing of, the thing you're watching, are you actually watching what reality is, or are you watching a kind of fictionalized version of what they will imagine reality to be? Because the thing about this film is, the objective reality might not be what you're seeing, and it presents as things, the witches and everything else, as something that could be their imagination, or it could be reality of the world. But it's much more interesting things like the Kubrick's The Shining, where there's a lot of stuff's ambiguous for a while, and that's when it actually goes the full hog, is that the whole thing can be ambiguous, the whole thing can be read as something different. It just depends on how you want to interpret it. Because you get psychological reasons why things happen, but you also get things of darkness and is it a bunch of people going mad and outside away from society, or is it actually something going wrong? And that's what the strength of the film is. It always kind of keeps everything like not pinned down, and you can see why people who are watching other people react in a certain way might not see what they're seeing because they've the word fantasies they're dealing with, and everyone's dealing with a madness in their own way, and everyone's dealing with what could be potentially a threat. And it's a wonderful film. Again, it's one of those things I don't want to go into too much beyond saying that it's like a wonderful build, and it's the confidence of a first-time director who's not trying to please people. Like the film basically is stuck to these central characters, and you get an odd other character here or there, but only for a very short time. A lot of the things that happen could be interpreted as you could have done various interpretations of it, and it's just the atmosphere. Like the photography is in colour, but it feels very black and white. Like they want to make it black and white, but it's very muted colour, and everything in the forest is muted. It's gorgeous. Some of the photography is gorgeous in this film. Edgar's then going to make a lighthouse, which was in black and white. And if you've seen the trailer for the new Nosferatu he's directed, it's also that kind of thing. It's in colour, but it feels very black and white. There's a kind of corrupted feel to the ground, a corrupted feel to the people. There's a sense of people who are not being honest with themselves or each other in any way, and everyone can't communicate with anyone else. It's almost like the things that happen in life in a family, like people can't communicate with each other, is made so much worse because of their religious beliefs, their psychological issues, their isolation, and the fact that they're having to rely on other people who are also perhaps deranged. There is no sane centre in the family to say, no, wait a minute, you're going over the top, just relax. There's no one there who can say that. They've all got their problems. And it's just this weird mix of different types of problems in one situation with no sane person to step back and say, things have gone really bad for you lot. But yeah, so the photography is great, the atmosphere is great, the characters are terrific, the acting's terrific. Even from the younger actors, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone speaks in this kind of older language, but they all understand what it means. It's the thing is when we see a Shakespeare play where if the actors understand what they're saying, what the meaning of the words are, and they can communicate it, Shakespeare's easy to understand. When they don't understand and are just saying words, it becomes like, I don't get this. You know, in this one, the actors understand the language and can communicate the language to us. So even the younger actors can do it, and it's like, they spent time in this. They really spent time. Obviously, having older actors who are experienced probably helped them understand how to say this language. So, yeah, The Witch is wonderful. I had it for years on streaming and never watched it until last week. And I was like, why did I not watch this earlier? I've seen the director's other films, but for some reason this one I always seem to not watch. And I just kind of think I really should have watched it so much earlier. Now it's Jethica, which is a film which has been vaguely released. I got it in streaming. I don't think it's got physical release here, but you can buy it cheap in streaming. And I'd recommend you do it because it's only like 80 minutes long. So it's not a long time investment, but it works really well. It's basically, the idea is, I'm trying not to give anything too much away, is this as a young woman meets up with a friend who she knew from school but they haven't seen each other for a long time, and this friend has been getting stalked by this man who is in love with her but won't accept rejection. And then so she goes back to her friend's place. So this friend who's on the run from the situation goes back to our main character's house to stay for a couple of days, and then the guy shows up at the house, and it turns out he's dead and he's a ghost, and that's as far as I'll say. Right, that's as far as the trailer says. And what's good with this film really is, it's low budget. It was made by Pete Ohs in a low budget situation. He had actors he knew, and he said, well, we're in a pandemic, we can't do much, but we can go out here and do this film that's isolated from everybody. And basically, I think all they really have to do is do COVID tests for each other and things, and stick to the same place and know they're safe. But basically, they were shooting during COVID, not the peak of it, but afterwards. There's still restrictions, but they did it safely, and they shot in a few weeks. The idea was, well, at the very worst, if it's not a very good film, what's happening? You get out of the house for a couple of weeks. You know, it was that kind of thing. It was like, we'll see what happens. And they put the film together, and it works. It really works. His idea is about what's the inner life of a ghost, and what does a ghost want once he realises it's dead, and how do human beings who are still alive react to that, and what are their problems, and how them and the ghosts react to each other, and what are their issues, and what's the various issues affecting the haunted and the damned. But it's done in a kind of conversational style. It's not like jump scare or anything. It's much more atmospheric. There's a couple of sequences of what the person imagining things are going on rather than anything else. But it's much more dialogue centric and character centric and action centric. It's much more of what people think in that situation rather than fun and scares. And it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. I mean, the worst you can say about it is the first 10-15 minutes. It takes a little while to get going. Because it's only 80 minutes long, I think they added a few more shots. Too many shots of atmosphere than they probably needed. But I think it's just a running time thing. But that quickly got dispelled as the film went on. The characters are all interesting and very specific to who they are. No one's the same. Which is a big problem with certain low budget films, is all the characters feel very samey because one person's written them and everyone kind of speaks the same voice. This one, it was like they had to took the situation, and what happened was that the actors took over their parts and got their dialogue working in their tongue, and they all wrote it so that it was specifically to each character, and people could bring their own perspective to the parts, but also their own way of speaking, so no one felt the same, and each person had a different approach to the situation based on what the character was doing. So it created this thing where no one feels the same, everyone feels different to each other. And again, that's what helps make it work. The fact is, you've got a ghost story where the intent is not to horrify you in an obvious way. The intent is, what's the problem if you're a ghost? You have some problems. What happens with you? And how do you negotiate with a ghost who's a bit obsessed? And a ghost stalker is a bit of a problem. So, yeah, it's a really interesting film. It's one of those ones I really wish was better known, but it just has to go out. The only person who you'll recognise from is Carly Hernandez, who was in Blair Witch and a few other films. She's been in a bunch of films. You'll recognise the face. Even if you don't know her name, it's one of those people you'll recognise her face if you've been watching films in the last decade. But the rest of the actors I think they're more indie actors who you might have never seen before. But they're all good. Everyone's good. Everyone knows what they're doing. And it's one of those just nice 80-minute films that used to make a lot in the 50s and 60s, where it doesn't cost much. It's the atmosphere and the people. It doesn't have to make $1 billion or anything. It just needs to be seen and slowly make its money back over time. And we should have more films like that. I mean, this is what indie films should be, rather than the trash you normally get, which is usually a bit pretentious and a bit, look at me, rather than, okay, what's the situation? How can we make a fun, enjoyable film? Which this film goes for. So, I would definitely recommend it. So, that's me for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you go and watch both these films if you haven't seen them. See you later. Bye.